Hey, sports fans, it's Larry Eder with Run Blog Run. This is our program, Socialing the Distance. This week, we're featuring one of my favorite people in the sport, Jon Ridgeon. John, is your title CMO or are you COO? I screw that up all the time.
Neither, CEO.
CEO, thank you. Okay. All right, I wanted to get it right. And thank you for chatting with us from, you're in Monaco right now, or are you?
Certainly am. I'm at HQ office in Monaco, yeah.
I love that office down there. There was a great place for coffee and perhaps a glass of wine outside once in a while. So here's my first question. We put some questions together, and you're the guy who's got to sell the sport to everybody, and you got to walk into the rooms with that charming guy, Seb Coe, and tell everybody how great track and field is. And I think you've got a lot to sell right now with some of these amazing athletes. But how do you sell brand marketing in the time of a pandemic?
Well, look, obviously you wouldn't, choose the last year of
Sure.
COVID-19 and on all the other things, okay? But it's not been as dire as you might think, actually, because if you think about it, actually, athletics has been pretty brave and pretty bold. And whereas some sports have pretty much disappeared, athletics hasn't. And that's been a great partnership effort between all the meet organizers, between ourselves, between the member federations and our partners. And actually, if you look at 2020, when the real easy option was not to stage anything, actually, athletics still staged well over 30 Diamond League and Continental Tour meets. We still managed to stage a World Championships in Poland, the World Half Marathon Championships. We still managed to have, some road races such as the London Marathon. So athletics still happened. And okay, it wasn't as expansive as any of us wanted. It certainly wasn't the Olympic Games last year, but we still had a presence. We didn't disappear. And as I said, that was down to the passion and hard work and lots of people. So, we were still there, and we still had and we still had a place in the marketplace for athletes and fans. And actually, if you look at what's happened, let's not forget what athletics is. We're an amazingly unique and powerful sport from the point of view that at one moment we can quite rightly and legitimately claim we're the number one Olympic sport. We create those big moments of the games. And in the same breath, we're the most participated sport in the world. The last bit of research I looked at was some Nielsen research from last year. 1.4 billion people around the world run. Now, they don't all run every day, but they run occasionally, right? So number one Olympic sport, most participated sport in the world. That's an incredible starting position. And actually, yes, we have this fantastic top level product, and we'll be in America next year for the first ever World Championships held in America. But at the same time, all the research I've seen talks about people wanting to take control and be more focused on their health than ever before. Well, surely as the most accessible, one of the cheapest sports in the world to be part of, you just put a pair of runners on and go for a run around the block. Surely athletics has got to be one of the key solutions for helping people be more fit and healthy and active going forward. So, look, I think we have some phenomenal stories to tell. Let's also not forget that, all sports now are driving hard to have gender equality and more diversity, and quite rightly so. Athletics has had that for decades. I mean, that's part of our DNA. And actually, so I think we have some incredible strengths as a sport. We've also used this time to really, work hard and plan. And we've created a new strategic plan, which is all about growing athletics over the next 4 years, which, that's what we want to be judged by. So, look, in fact, I was only on a commercial call yesterday with a potential commercial brand, and and actually they were talking to us about our campaigns and efforts around air quality and making sure that as an athletics organization, it's about making sure people can run in clean air. So I think we have lots of really relevant things to talk about as a sport, as well as obviously an incredible track record and history. So I have a huge amount of optimism for the future. I genuinely do. Clearly, we've got to get through this pandemic, but I think we've got a great few years ahead of us, both in terms of competition, but also in terms of commercial partnerships as well.
Coverage in 2020, the Diamond League was challenging, obviously. But I'm going to take us back to Monaco for a minute. One of my keen observers in the U.S., a good buddy, when I put Monaco did an amazing job for a pandemic, he goes, Larry, Monaco did an amazing job for any year. And Donovan Brazier, among other athletes, was telling me the care that the management took into doing that meet. What are the challenges on putting on a world-class event in a pandemic?
Well, that's a really good question because I was lucky enough to be in the stadium in Monaco, and it was a stunning night. Cheptegei breaking the world 5,000-meter record, but there was some wonderful performances right the way through the evening. Noah Lyles and Kirsten Warholm and a whole bunch. But that was a really good example of the partnership between World Athletics and the Diamond League. So they did a brilliant job in terms of bringing the athletes in. I mean, by the way, the athletes were all absolutely up for it as well, which made a big difference. And you can see what fresh athletes can create as well. In many ways, I think it shows you that the year freshened up athletes. But we very much led on creating all the COVID medical protocols. We worked closely, with the meet directors and for Monaco, and ended up in having a brilliant meet, and it was really fast paced, and it was just at the right time as well, where the world was starved of athletics and starved of live, really world-class sport, and there it was. Monaco happened. But I've just got to say as well, Larry, I couldn't be prouder of what the Diamond League achieved this year. If you think about it, there were some 8 meets in the end that were achieved. Okay, some were kind of virtual meets, some were exhibitions, 3 or 4 were regular Diamond League meets. So we didn't get to the full roster of 15, but we still got sort of halfway there. And the first Diamond League meet was back in June. When it was Oslo created the Impossible Games, and in Zurich did the Inspirational Games, and they were kind of virtual events and social distancing events. And I mean, it couldn't have been harder to stage events, but they still did something. And then we worked through to Monaco, which was the first proper Diamond League meet, and all the way through, athletics was pushing the boundaries and trying to get live product onto our screens for the athletes and fans. And I just, as I said, I think Diamond League did a good job last year. Hopefully we'll get back to normal this year. That's it's a really important week in, week out product for athletics. And Monaco every year produces a stunning event, but they certainly really pulled out the stops last year, as you said.
European Indoor Championships are coming up in Torun. I love that place, man, and I really wanted to go, but as an American, I'm not going to. I tried to get into Iceland, and they wouldn't even let me look at the puffins. So, what's the health of European athletics right now? What are you hearing? I see meets going on over there. I mean, there's a ton of stuff in France right now, even with the president talking about virtually everything but a lockdown again.
In fact, Louvain is staging an indoor meet only this evening, so I'm looking forward to watching that. And it's a fantastic lineup there. Well, I think we're going to see some really, really stunning athletics tonight. So, look, I really hope the European Indoor Championships happens. Poland is a really can-do place. I mean, we staged the World Half Marathon Championships last year there, and they pulled out all the stops, and they couldn't do enough for us. So if anywhere can stage a championship right now, it's Poland. But Europe is really important for athletics. It's traditionally been the kind of the bedrock of the sport from the point of view. Even now, Larry, if you look at the top sort of 100 one-day meets, a good 90 of them would be in Europe. I mean, our job is work with the rest of the world to try and get more big meets, staged around the world, so it can get to the same level in terms of competition of Europe. But clearly Europe once absolutely dominated in terms of athletes. Now it's a much more global competitive world. But it's great to see there are still some really exciting athletes. The pole vault at the moment, we were just talking before we came on air. Stunning with Lavillini and Duplantis. Great head-to-heads there. We've obviously got Kirsten Warholm in the hurdles. We've got Larislav Mochik, the young Ukrainian lady who's jumped 2 meters and 6 recently. There's a whole group of athletes who are going to be not only great Europeans but great global athletes come Tokyo this year, and that's really important. That every region, particularly Europe, has some good athletes. And look, they run European athletics well, and And they staged some great events as well. I mean, the European Championships in Berlin back in 2018 was one of the best athletics meets I've been to. So I think Europe's in good health, and I think what's exciting is they now have a crop of young, interesting, engaging athletes, so that they can compete and hopefully maintain a presence alongside the might of the likes of the USA athletes and African athletes and increasingly Asian athletes as well.
The I would call it the resurrection of European athletics, in a big part has to do with the late Sven-Arne Hansen, who we lost earlier in the year. What do you think the legacy of Sven will be? I mean, he brought. I always remember him smiling. He always had time for the media. I thought he played well with others. He worked well with you guys, which is a big thing. That's one of the things as a media guy I judge. I'm going to go. Why are the federations have got to get along, right? What do you think his legacy will be?
Yeah, so I mean, he is hugely missed, and he was a larger than life character. In fact, I remember he was very kindly gave me a lane in the Oslo Bislett Games in 1985 when I was 17 years of age. My first ever. It was my first ever kind of Grand Prix meet. I certainly didn't win, but it was amazing. I remember running my race and then sitting in the infield watching Steve Cram break the world mile record that night, just thinking, wow, I want to be part of this forever. Okay, so he certainly made a big personal impression on me, but as I said, giving me an opportunity so young in my career to experience the big time. But what was amazing about Sven-Arne, because he'd done everything. He'd been a meet organizer, he'd been a federation man. Finally he was an area president, and so he had his vision of athletics was complete because he'd seen every element of it. He knew everyone. 99.9% of people liked him, which is a good start, and most of us can't claim that, right? So he could bring people together. The word partnership springs to my mind. He brought people together and worked well. As you say, he certainly worked well with Seb, our president, and World Athletics. Brought lots of energy to the job, and what was really important as well is he wasn't just obsessed with the elite athlete side of things and having the shop window, which of course is really important. And he was incredibly proud of what was achieved in Berlin, for example, at those European Championships in that iconic stadium in 2018, and a brilliant European Championships. But he also invested an immense amount of time on the development side of things. You're making sure that European athletics funded, the 50 odd nations in Europe to make sure that it was just more than just elite athletics, but actually it was about getting youngsters involved, getting people involved, just growing the participation base. And it's stuff that perhaps, wasn't famous, but it made a big impression. And I mean, he's a tough individual in world athletics to replace, because he was a very special man. And in fact, if you just pop down the corridor here in Monaco at HQ office and walk into my boss's office, Seb Coe's office, there's a big picture of Sven-Arne Hansen on the wall.
Cool.
So we think about him regularly, Larry.
Cool. You worked in your formative years. You worked with Alan Pascoe at Fast Track, and one of my favorite characters, Ian Stewart, and then Sherry Alexander. Give me two lessons you learned in working with Pascoe.
Well, I always describe Alan as my business mentor. So I was very lucky as a kind of fresh out of retiring from athletics. Alan gave me the opportunity to work with him, and in the end, we ended up as business partners. And I think what I learned from Alan was, he's such a dynamic individual, and I think I learned, the drive that's required to hopefully achieve things, the focus that's required, he was always so full of energy. He was always so positive. He would never, ever take no for an answer. It was all about, finding a way through. But the most important thing in many ways for Alan was, yes, he was a brilliant man and a creative man, but he loved what he did. And actually, you've got to wake up every day and be passionate about what you do, just as you do, Larry. And actually, I'm really lucky as well. I wake up every morning, and this is, it sounds corny, but this is my dream job. And love coming to work. And, it's all pretty easy, isn't it? When you actually enjoy we all have hard bits to our job, but actually when you like what you do, and that's the key. And I could see Alan loved what he did. I loved working with him, and I'm very fortunate that I, remain in the sport doing something that actually is great fun most of the time.
You competed in a time, one of the real characters, Andy Norman, who I met near the end of his life, and I got to interview him one time. Totally fascinated with the guy, but he brought professional track and field to the world. How has the professional sport changed since you competed?
Yeah, so look, I knew Andy, and he was, I guess, a flawed genius. So in many ways, the way he made things happen wouldn't necessarily be, applicable in the modern age. But my God, he moved athletics on. Sometimes it was a little gruff for probably the modern age, but he made stuff happen, and he revolutionized British athletics. So absolutely, and look, and I'll be honest, my relationship with Andy was hot and cold at times, but sure. That was fine. I think, one of the biggest, and I was really fortunate that my career was relatively short, but in the sort of late 80s, early 90s, athletics, there was a plethora of competitive opportunities. And one thing that I've noticed since then is, yes, if you're, the cream of the crop, you probably, your sports apparel brand contract is probably bigger than it ever was. And, you can, Usain Bolt clearly has become a multi-millionaire and global superstar from the sport. But actually, a lot of the events that I was able to compete at in the late 1980s are not there anymore. So there's been a decline on some of those smaller meets. So almost the bandwidth of being a professional athlete and the elite athletics has narrowed over the last 20, 30 years. And actually, one of the things we're really working hard at, it's why, for example, we created the Continental Tour, is to reverse that trend and start growing meets again. And what is clear is so, for example, with Alan Pascoe, we used to organise all of the commercial and events program for British athletics. And back then, 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we could create strong standalone meets in the British market. It worked. What's clear now is for meets to really flourish, they have to be part of a bigger global aggregated, branded product, which is why Diamond League works, which is why we believe Continental Tour will work, which is why the World Indoor Tour right now will work, which is why our World Series Championship events work. You have to be a part of something bigger now, and I think that's the big shift. And I think, I think we're tapping into that and focusing on that well now, and I think you can see that turn around. I mean, I was so proud last year on the back of the Continental Tour, the creation for the first time of the Continental Tour, against the backdrop of a pandemic. Nairobi created a top-class televised event for the first time in decades, and the Kenyan government finance that event, and that event is here to stay now, and that's what we need more of. We need to create great athletics, not just in Europe, but around the world, more in North America, more in South America, more in Africa, more in Asia and Australasia. We need great athletics all the way around the world. And I think that's perhaps what we've lost over the last 20, 30 years since I was an athlete. And we are determined to do everything we can to try and grow that again. So if you're a fan in any part of the world, you can watch athletics in a home audience, and if you're an athlete, you can compete in a home audience, as well as obviously traveling internationally for things like the Diamond League.
In 2019, I did the World Indoor Tour, went from city to city, and I loved it. Had a great time. But I'd also make the habit of watching it on streaming video on Facebook. And what I noticed was how many kids, now I say anybody under 35 is a kid, but how many like 15 to 25-year-olds were on there, and how they were really getting into it. Is streaming video adding to the terrestrial TV numbers? Is it taking it away? Is it building it up? Where do you see it playing? Yeah,
so look, one of the you can never say that anyone's had a good pandemic, because clearly it's the whole thing is a nightmare. But one of the trends that have clearly happened across the world is the acceleration of digitization, and I'd like to think that World Athletics has jumped on that trend as well. And I think if you just look at our numbers, how they've grown over the last year, it's phenomenal. We've gone from circa sort of 2 million social media followers to over 4 million now. When you add up the TikToks and the Twitter and the Facebook and the Instagram and the YouTube YouTube coverage. So, our numbers have grown incredibly, and we put huge energy into that as well. And as well as that, for example, we staged a virtual annual awards at the end of last year, and got just short of 400,000 viewers of that, and that was again through streaming through our
awesome.
YouTube channel. So that was both live and delayed, and so the numbers are building well. I mean, what we do, for example, you take the World Indoor Tour. So tonight I'll watch it, on French terrestrial television. So because they've bought the rights. But in other parts of the world where there isn't a television deal done, what we do is stream that now on the World Athletics YouTube. So wherever you are in the world, you should be able to see either the World Indoor Tour now or the Continental Tour Gold this summer. And that's really important because we've got to make our product more visible. And clearly we are. The market's moving. It's really interesting. We've had a traditional model where broadcasters bought the rights and they bought everything. We're now trying to find a new middle ground, which is allowing, for example, the rights holders and the federations, the likes of ourselves, to do as much as we can on social. And that in turn drives audiences actually to the live broadcast as well. But it's just that we're all finding our way in the industry in that new model. But I like to think we're pushing hard and finding our new place there. And certainly, I can assure you, we're putting a lot of time into the whole video streaming and the whole social media and our website as well. We revamped our website last year as well and tried to make it much more dynamic and much more interesting. And I think as international federation sites go, I think we've got a pretty attractive and dynamic site. So we're putting a lot of energy into this area.
In Doha, I listened to IAAF radio. One night, the night unfortunately that Mutaz did his high jumping, I was in the hotel room not feeling well, and I got to tell you, it was glorious. It was, and I forget the gentleman who does it, but it was like listening to American baseball or American ice hockey, which I will never watch on TV. I have to listen on the radio. Where does IAAF radio fit into it? Is it only around the major events, or do you guys do other things with it as well?
Well, Larry, you've got me there. I know about it like you from the major events. I don't think at the moment we do it outside of the major championships. Okay, maybe it's one for the future, but certainly it's just one of the ways people can follow athletics.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I just think and I think it's one of the things. It's one of the strengths of world athletics has been the different platforms that you guys use, and you get it. And then on the website with Bob Ramczak and with John. You have a lovely group of people working there who, like you say, wherever Ramczak is in former Yugoslavia each day, and I don't know, he enjoys what he does, and you can tell it. And that's the thing that I think keeps it really cool. We've got a World Championships in Eugene, Oregon, and to be gentle, I think that many non-Americans said, "Why are we going to some little town in Oregon? Why aren't we in San Francisco or Palo Alto or something like that?" What has been the challenge of selling the World Championships in Eugene for World Athletics?
Well, look, unbelievably, it's the first time next year we've ever been to the United States for a World Championships. I mean, you produce the most entertaining, compelling, inspirational athletes in the world. And anyway, we're finally there, and that's really exciting. And the USA market is a really, really important market for us. And we hope over the next decade, working with Max and Renee at USA Track and Field, we can work together to grow our athletics. And by the way, yes, the World Championships are going to Eugene next year. Then we've got LA, obviously, in 28. And we hope to take a number of other major events to the USA in the next decade. So hopefully it's just the start. Look, Eugene Hayward Fields is an iconic stadium. I never sadly got to run there as an athlete, but it's the new stadium is incredible. It will be an amazing cauldron for athletics. It really will. Okay. It is in many ways the home of USA Track and Field. We've recently signed a new 10-year deal with NBC, who are really committed to athletics and working with us. And what we want to use Eugene next year for is a platform to really, obviously stage a fantastic World Championships, work with NBC to grow the fan base across America, because they're committed to giving us, wonderful wall-to-wall live coverage right there across the states. At the same time, we want to work with Max and Renee and all the team at USA Track and Field to work on the legacy side of growing, participation, growing club athletics, helping to grow, the amount of people facilitating our sport as well, the coaches, the volunteers, the officials. So, we're developing a plan together. And it starts, I guess it starts now in the build up to Eugene. And it's really important because, as we've said several times in this interview, the USA produces the most incredible athletes. But I think we all believe athletics deserves a higher profile in America. And yes. So, we really can't waste this next decade. We've got this unique opportunity to all work together to try and make a big impact. And look, Eugene will deliver a great meet because, as I said, the stadium's amazing. The stadium will be full every single day. So the athletics will take place against a backdrop of a great atmosphere. And I'm suspecting the USA athletes may step up as well. So I think there may be quite a lot for the American fans to celebrate as well via the NBC coverage as well. So I think you combine that. That's a great kickstart to, as I said, hopefully a decade of more activity and more growth in the USA.
Recently, the IOC did not accept cross country as a Winter Olympic sport. Were you guys surprised by that, or was it just part of the global politics of sport?
I might as well be honest with you. I mean, both myself and Seb and the whole organization here, we were disappointed. I mean, we believed we'd created we have created a great product, a mixed team relay for cross country. It was an opportunity for athletics to reach a new audience. It was an opportunity for athletics to be in the first week of the games. Actually, also, it would have been a fitting anniversary. 100 years ago in Paris in 1924, was the last time cross country was staged in the Olympics. So look, we thought all the stars were aligning. I guess you have to accept that this is a time of caution and austerity. There's a lot going on right now. And the IOC, and I do understand it, made a decision that this wasn't the time for new events or sports to be added beyond what had been decided in the past. But I still take heart from the point of view that the IOC they went out of their way, even in their public statements, to say they thought that the mixed team relay model we created was a really compelling, interesting, entertaining model, and they encouraged us to once again submit our proposals for the LA 2028 games. So yes, we won't be in Paris, and yes, I'm disappointed, but the fight goes on, and I hope that the cross-country mixed relay will be in LA in 2028.
Cool. In 1996, I was at the Atlanta Grand Prix, and I got there early. I was with Mr. Simon, one of the organizers, and he had me look at the wine that was set at the table, the IAAF, and the wine that was for the IOC. And my brother-in-law is a French chef, and I went through, and I still have the notebook, and Mr. Samaranch had about $300,000 in wine at the table, and the other, Mr. Nebbiolo, was about pretty close, but they came in from different doors. At that time, and then again, we're talking historical context, the IOC and the IAAF did not play as well with others. How would you categorize that relationship now?
Well, I think it's getting much better. I think it really helps the fact that the president, Seb Coe, is now an IOC member, and quite rightly so. So I think that can help bring us closer together. And actually, sometimes adversity brings you together, and we're probably speaking to the IOC more often than we normally would because of all the things we have to. In fact, I was only on a call with Tokog this morning, working out how we're going to make these games happen. Which, by the way, absolutely convinced that it will happen. And so I think in many ways this has brought us closer together, and hopefully we can work even more positively together in the future on things like developing cross country for the LA 28 game. So cool. So yeah, work in progress, but I think it's a really positive step that Seb is now an IOC member.
Let's talk about Tokyo for a couple minutes. I love Japan. Osaka rocked, and the Japanese are total track hounds, so it'll be a lot of fun to be there. Do you think that Seb has intimated that there'll probably a limited number of fans? Is it going to be like the the German indoor meets where there was 199 allowed the last week or so. So no one was in there. How do you think it's going to play out? What's your read right now?
Yeah. So the first thing to say is that Seb, and he's closer than I, obviously being an IOC member, but we were both over in Tokyo at the end of last year, looking at the facilities and meeting everyone of relevance there. And the commitment to make the games happen is absolute. Despite some of the media reports that came out recently, I mean, we're convinced the games will happen. The sport element of the games will happen, and the athletes will produce some stunning athletics. In terms of how the whole games will look, we don't know yet, but it could well be very modified. So, for example, they're going to make a decision. Tokyo's going to make a decision on how big or small the crowds can be in kind of late March, early April. So let's see where we are. But the good thing is, what have you got to do to have athletics happen? You've got to get the athletes and the key support people there. You've got to get the officials there in the stadium, and you've got to get the host broadcaster in the stadium. Those three things will happen. We'll have a great show. And almost, yes, I hope the stadium will be full. I hope all the surround sound glamour of the games happens. But if it doesn't, it's actually not the end of the world. As long as those three elements come together and we have the athletics, which we will, it's going to be great. And my God, our sport needs it. Yes, the IOC needs it, but so does athletics. We need the big showpiece. There'll be 2 or 3 billion people, for example, watches the men's and women's 100-meter final. We need those big moments to capture not just the athletics fans, but the generalist sports fans. So it's important, and we're confident it's going to happen.
In 2022, we have the Commonwealth Games, which I love. Went to a couple of them. Yeah. Actually, I told the reporter in Scotland that the U.S. was petitioning to join the Commonwealth again, and we got a story about it. It was fun. You got to do that once in a while. But you got the Commonwealth Games Europeans, and you've got the World Champs. Do you think it's going to take till 2022 for us to get solidly back with everything? And I know you hope that by the summer, fall, we're going to be in great shape. But realistically, how do you guys plan for things like this?
Well, you have to have several contingency plans, and like last year, you have to plan and replan and rip it up, and that's why, for example, we've created a global calendar unit which can work with all the meet directors. So for example, as things change, we can change to make sure you can still create a coherent calendar of events across the summer, no matter what. But look, I think this year will be compromised this summer, but it not in the way that last year was. So, for example, sure. you can see Diamond League and Continental Tour events taking place behind not closed doors, but not full stadium either. Sort of social distancing crowd. In fact, I was only on a Diamond League ball call talking about this last night. So you could see, whereas I think we'll have a good degree of normal athletics. It may be against the backdrop of compromised crowds, but look, we'll make it work. So I'm confident still that this summer there'll be a good build up to the games. There'll clearly be a great Olympic Games, and then there'll be the conclusions of the Continental Tour and Diamond League after that. So we're going to have a good summer. Yes, there'll be some compromises, but I'm confident we do. And remember, thank goodness for the vaccine. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when now. And, countries around the world are ramping up all the time. So, I think the world could look a very different place. It's easy to be pessimistic right now, let's be honest. But I think come April, May, I think the world can be in a very different place, and we could look forward to a regular summer. But Larry, if we don't, we don't. We'll make it work. We'll make it work. And, there'll be athletics this summer, no matter what the challenges are.
Thank you. So we're down to 5 minutes. John, you survived with me well. All right, here's the one I was warning you about.
Okay.
I'm going to give you 5 athletes' names, and they're not all going to be hurdlers, okay? You're allowed, try to do 3 words. You can do up to 5 words, okay?
Okay, let me write them down.
All right, Colin Jackson.
Silky smooth, ultimate competitor, and legend.
Okay. All right. Grant Holloway.
The future. He's going to break the world record probably this indoor season. The future, beautifully fluent, great guy.
Okay. Mondo Duplantis.
Intelligent, entertaining, beautifully technician.
Elliot,
this is the hardest part of the interview, Larry.
I know. I love seeing you because I like seeing you think on your feet. I've watched you and Pasco do it, and I was always fascinated by that. Elliot Kipchoge.
Role model, barrier breaker, fierce competitor.
Laura Muir.
Gutsy, competitive, and tough.
Alan Pasco.
Well,
I had to do that. You knew.
Multi-dimensional athlete and businessman, ambitious, entertainer.
You guys saved British athletics. Where do you see British athletics at right now?
I think, like a lot of governing bodies, I mean, it's tough at the moment. It's tough to stage live events, and certainly British athletics, along with a lot of federations, is struggling on that at the moment. And hopefully that will work through. I know that Joanna Coates, the new CEO, and the board are working hard. They've inherited some problems. I think that's been well documented. It's a challenge, but they're working through it. And I'm sure, British athletics has got a great tradition, and it can come through. Let's not forget, though, what's the most important thing? Athletes. And British athletics have some brilliant performers that could really make an impression in Tokyo. On the women's front, you've mentioned one already, Laura Muir, but we've got Katrina Johnson-Thompson, Dina Asher-Smith, who bounced back last weekend, ran a couple of super indoor meets. And you've got Mo Farah going for, his fifth Olympic gold medal this year. We've got Jake Whiteman. We've got Andrew Pozzi in my old event. So look, we've got some great athletes, and I think for all the focus on the boardroom and politics, I think we'll see some good British athletes' performances, and that's what we'll focus on this summer.
Okay, you're in a room with the 500 top brand marketers in the world. Okay. We got a really nice bottle of wine in front of them. Each one of them, they've had a couple glasses of wine. So the charm offensive is on, Jon Ridgeon. What would you tell brand marketers about why they should invest in world athletics?
Well, I'd go back to what I said earlier. I'd say, look, be part of something that's really unique. Be part of something that's the #1 Olympic sport and most participated sport in the world. Be part of something whose future is actually about helping the world be a fitter, healthier place post the COVID ambition, and also buy into a sport that has incredible ambition for the future. Our best days are going to be ahead of us. Be part of that journey. Join us. We're a wonderfully diverse sport, and we're a sport for the future. And we get partnerships, and we can work well with your brand for our mutual benefit. How's that for an elevator pitch?
Awesome. And then final thing I'm going to throw at you. I talked to all the guys, the men and women in charge of sports marketing and the footwear brands, and every one of them said how happy they were with you in the sport. Why is that? What do you get that other people don't?
Well, I don't think it's about me personally. I think it's about World Athletics and the shoe companies. So it's about, we've mentioned it many times, Larry. It's about partnership, about working together. Okay, we are an organisation that we're very driven to create new products and hopefully create things for ourselves. But we're also very happy to work with others and partner with and support others as well. And we are at the moment working with the shoe companies to make sure that going forward we find that line between encouraging innovation. And there's been a huge amount of innovation in shoe technology over the last 3 years, but at the same time, making sure the sport has all the wonderful features of universality and access and fairness as well. And instead of, I'm not saying we always get it perfectly right, but instead of on high making, announcements, we're genuinely sitting around a table working with all the major shoe companies, trying to thrash the shoe together, with the athletes, with other interested parties, and hopefully they can see that we're in this to try and work with others to grow athletics, and we're trying to do this collaboratively. So that's what I hope, led from Seb downwards. That's what I hope is the culture of world athletics.
Before we got on this morning, you talked about how we both get up in the morning and love our job. What's the thing you love most about your job?
Well, thinking about athletics every day. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. It's it's been a central part of my life since I can remember. And what's really exciting is when one finishes your athletics career, you think that might be the end of the journey, okay? And I'm so fortunate to have a second crack at it, that actually my athletics days are now well and truly behind me, but I can still perhaps make an impact, make a small influence on world athletics, and that's immensely motivational. To be part of something that you believe in, you think you can be part of something that make a difference. And as I said, I think athletics' best days are ahead of us. I think we've got a period of great growth ahead of us, and just to be part of that is really exciting.
Jon Ridgeon, COO of World Athletics, thank you so much for making some time today. It's great seeing your charming face in Monaco, and I hope to see you outdoors soon. But thank you again for all you do for the sport. It means a lot. And thanks for talking to our crew. We'll have this thing up in the next couple weeks, because, see, this is how I get in trouble with Mike. If I say it's going to be up in 5 days, then I get the evil eye. But we're going to get this thing up, and I'll get a link off to Jackie and to Loic. And thank you again, Jon, for everything. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, it's a real pleasure, and stay safe.
All right, thank you. This is Larry Eder with RunBlogRun, Socialing the Distance. We featured COO Jon Ridgeon of World Athletics, one of our favorite human beings. So, Jon, thank you very much. Have a great one. Hey, sports fans, it's Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. This is our program, Socialing the Distance. This is the epilogue. Today we featured World Athletics CEO Jon Ridgeon. Jon was a fine 110 hurdler, the silver medalist in the 1987 World Championships. He ran 13:29 at the height of his career. Then with injuries, moved to the 400 hurdles, where he ran 48:73 and competed in the semifinals of the 96 Olympics. Jon has his hands full now, but if anybody can do it, Jon Ridgeon can do it. It was funny last week. I was chatting with Pascal Rolling at Puma, and Pascal's in the midst of picking up a ton of athletes as he prepares for the 1990 or the 2024 Olympics in Paris. And he said really good things about Jon and how having Jon at the helm of the sport is really important. And I believe many of the other brands believe that too. Jon's a thoughtful guy. He's got a great sense of humor. He thinks on his feet. And as he says so eloquently, he wakes up every morning excited for his job, which is the way it should be. Today we talked about how has World Athletics weathered the storm of the pandemic, and Jon believes they've done quite well, and I have to concur. It started out with some of the impossible games and things like that in the Garden Clash last year. Monaco was one of the great high points. I think this indoor season has been fantastic. Everything from the world indoor record in the triple jump to the world shot put record to Grant Holloway by Ryan Krauser. And our friend Fabrice Hughes set the triple jump record of Zongo of Fabrice Hughes Zongo, 1807, first man over 18 meters indoors, and first African man to have a world record indoor or out in the jumps. I think that's pretty cool. That's how the year started. Then we went to Ryan Krauser with a 22:82 in the indoor shot, and Grant Holloway 7:35 in the 60-meter hurdles, and it's just continued. So there's great stories in every meet, and as Jon said, it's all about the stories. It's about the athletes. The challenge for World Athletics as the global federation is, how do you keep your sponsors happy? How do you keep the athletes happy? how do you have content in meat stories? They've got a great website, which they redid. Our friends Bob Ramzak and John Mulkeen are the editors there, and it's overseen by Jackie Brock Doyle, who is the IAAF head of media. And I think that they're doing a very good job. So John's got great people underneath him, which is a sign of a really good manager. And that allows Seb Coe, the president, to go out and do the charm offensive and bring our friend John into the brand marketers meetings and pick up new sponsors. And that's the challenge right now is you've got the number 2 sport in the world in the Summer Olympics. You've got a sport with 1.4 billion participants out of 7 billion people on the planet. So 1 out of 5 are running a few days a week, 1 or 2 days a week. And so there's a huge identification, and there's major races when there's not a pandemic all over the world. We've had virtual races. I think I see more people out running now than ever before. And I can tell you that from our Twitter numbers alone, our numbers are almost doubled over the summer. And people want a sports outlet. And these amazing athletes we have in our sport are giving them that outlet. They're living vicariously. And our friends at ESPN with Paul Swangard, Otto Bolden, and Lewis Johnson have doing the emceeing, have given us great sports entertainment. And that's what you need for track and field to stand out. John gets that. John knows how to do it with a smile or a nod or a joke, because you get more done with that than giving people heck. And I congratulate World Athletics for continuing to develop that relationship with the IOC. I think the IOC can be a challenge. In the past, under between Samaranch and Nebbiolo in the old days, they didn't play well with others because athletics sometimes had sometimes athletics didn't stay in the background. Sometimes athletics put their hand on the table, as a fist. Seb and Coe and Jon Ridgeon understand that it's a bit of a dance, too, to be a global federation. And they're trying to do the good things. We asked questions about everything on the cross country not being in the Olympics, on the LA Olympics, on Eugene, the challenges of doing Eugene. But John answered them all well. I had a lot of fun asking him to describe certain athletes like Colin Jackson in 3 to 5 words, and he did a great job. He said something off air that I wanted to bring up, and he was okay with me doing that. One, World Athletics is healthy. It's been a tough year, but they're healthy. And they're healthy because of their relationships with groups like Dentsu, ASICS, TDK, their various sponsors. Those things all matter. They've got a new 10-year deal with NBC. That is really important. So all those things put together, can they weather a tough year? Yes. And Jon Ridgeon and Seb Coe are the 2 people that you want to have at the top of the sport when you're weathering things. So I thought that was really well done. What else can we talk about with this? I just thought this was a great conversation. I think very highly of John because John was with Alan Pascoe at Fast Track with Ian Stewart and Sherry Alexander, and they saved British athletics in the early 2000s, late 1990s, and put together some of the best financial deals for any sport federation. British athletics is having some challenges now, not because they're not good people, they're wonderful people there, but it's because sometimes challenges need people who've experienced those things before. So we'll have to see how it goes. I mean, I find it fascinating with British athletics. He talked about the health of British athletics as well as the health of European athletics and the relationship between the IOC and World Athletics and USA Track and Field and World Athletics. He spoke very highly of Max Siegel and Renee Washington, and I think that's good. That tells me a lot. But John's one of those kind of guys. He's a class act, one of the classiest people in the the global world of sports, and we need people like him in the sport. So I hope he stays around in a long time in Monaco. Although they've got, as our friend Loic just told us, everybody's sitting in their homes for the next 10 days because of the pandemic. So stay safe, my friends. This is Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. This is Socialing the Distance. We are with CEO Jon Ridgeon of World Athletics. If you like RunBlogRun, like us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you love us, subscribe on the YouTube. Yes, I like to call it the YouTube because I can. 369 videos and audios in 2020, just over 2,500 videos and audios since 2010. There's something for everybody. Our partners in video and audio, Brian Eder, my brother, handles the SoundCloud stuff for most of the audio. The video has been done by the Shoe Addicts, and they've helped us with Michael and Adam, have helped us develop Socialing the Distance, Athletics Chat, Conversations with Larry. And we're having a lot of fun, and we're trying new things. And that's what it's about. So if you like us, continue to listen, continue to watch, exercise every day, hydrate, stay safe, indoors, wear a mask. Outdoors, if you can't be 6 feet apart, wear a mask. We've got 3 or 4 months still that are scary in front of us. Okay. Stay safe, my friends.